Hola a todos de nuevo. Después de la pausa para el café, retomamos con otro ponente también muy especial para nosotros, Thiago Machado. Bienvenido, Thiago. Welcome, Thiago. Vamos a continuar con su seminario, que es Accessibility Testing, a Step by Step Guide. Thiago trabaja actualmente como ingeniero senior de testing en New Work y está al cargo de acompañar y guiar a los equipos con que trabaja en la mayoría de aspectos de calidad. Sus especialidades son la automatización y el mobile testing y escribe contenidos para el blog That's a Bag. Thiago, I was introducing you in Spanish for our audience, so I also say it in English for the English audience also. So, Thiago is working now as a senior test engineer in New Work. He's in charge of guiding the teams he works on the many aspects of quality. So, Thiago, thank you so much. You're very welcome. And so it's your turn.
Thank you, Alicia. So, hi everyone. My name is Thiago, and I would like also to thank everyone who's watching here. And to start, I would like to introduce myself. So first of all, I'm 31 years old. I'm from Brazil. That's why you are listening this talk in English. I'm still not pretty confident with my Spanish. And as Alicia said, I'm a senior QA engineer in New Work SE for the last 3 years. And I'm working in the IT market for the last 10 years, kind of a bit more actually. Not always as a QA engineer. I came from the dark side of the force. I'm a former Android developer. I'm a former full stack developer. I'm a former Scrum Master. I hope not be a former QA so soon because I'm running out of options. And yeah, I also was working around Brazil and Portugal and Spain, currently in Spain. And yeah, currently I'm also a content writer for a blog. That's actually is a friend's blog. It's called That's a Bug, completely focused on QA and testing. But I write content for him, and that's pretty cool. If you have some time, just check it out. So yeah, enough about talking about me. Let's start this. And first, I would like to invite you to think, what is accessibility for you? And what is the importance of that? Because for some people, the answer could be like quite straight or quite clear, but for others, I don't think so. Because there is too much things to think about that. So first of all, that's how I see accessibility. Okay, that's my vision. Accessibility is about making sure every individual has the same access to information. And when I mean information, I also think that's important to mention the same rights and the same opportunities. If we're listening to the last talk, Antonio also mentioned that his company provides services for the health area in Spain. So if they are not accessible enough, he also mentioned accessibility there. So if they are not mentioned accessible enough, a lot of people are being outside of the health, public health here in Spain, right? And also, for me, it's allowing the users to use a tool in the way that is more comfortable for them and not for a company, right? It is about providing the choice, providing the power up to them for how to use the devices they have, the apps they have, the services they have. So yeah, so you can ask me, okay, Thiago, but why should I care about that, right? I mean, what should I concern about accessibility, me or my company? So from my perspective, there are three main factors here. The first one is the human factor. I mean, this is probably the most clear, right, for everyone. I mean, this is about empathy and everything, but maybe it's not that clear for everyone. You have the business factor. It's really important. Accessibility is good for business, and maybe you don't know why, and I will talk about that in a couple of minutes. And also you have the law. Yeah, there's a regulation factor in the game. There is some laws that requires you to be accessible, and I'm also talking about this in a few. So yeah, for start, there is the human factor, because I mean, people matter, right? That's why we are building things here. We are building solutions to solve people's problems. So I don't. How do you feel about being not considered on those solutions? How do you feel about being not considered for anything? Like, it's not good, right? Being forgotten about a birthday party is already really annoying. Imagine when you are, I don't know, not being able to order a pizza, or I don't know, order a cab. I mean, it's not really nice, right? So I think everyone deserves to be seen, heard, and served by the products we are building in our daily basis, right? In our companies. And also, inclusion is essential to make people feel welcome, appreciated, and empowered. Talking about the business factor, regarding the Q, that is a company that works actively on accessibility. They provide engineers, they provide services, they provide products. It's really nice. They have a good job there. $7 billion. It is lost every year for companies, for e-commercers that are not accessible or accessible enough. Doesn't mean they don't have any kind of accessibility. People cannot just finish their process, like buying a product or ordering a pizza, as I said. 2/3 of the transactions are abandoned by blind people that try to buy something online. That's a lot. And 70% of those sites are inaccessible. They have critical accessibility blockers, and they are really considered inaccessible for most of people. And they receive one service call per week in average. For blind people trying to get help, trying to report any issue. And yeah, for me, those are really serious numbers. We are like in 2022, and this is still not getting well so far. Still in the business factor. By the way, they mentioned that we could not use the logo only in the first slide, but they don't mention that about breakups or everything else. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are good for business. I think that's quite clear, right? As I was saying, there is a huge amount in game, right? And they are there for be honored by the people, for the company who cares, so the company who are motivated to care about the users, to work for them, right? And that didn't see them only as a product. The companies that are engaging in this topic, they are opening themselves to new markets, market shares, new products, new business. I mean, they are opening themselves for innovation. People with disabilities are very loyal customers. I like this point here because I'm not sure about you, but when something works for me, usually I go there. I mean, I use that product again, that service again, right? Imagine when you talk about a service, a company that cares about you, about a minority. These companies are, I mean, really well seen by customers with disabilities, so they are really loyal for that, because those companies has something else, right? Accessible websites, they rank higher in search results. There is a score for accessibility. Also, you can. I'm gonna show these later. And those sites who are with a good score, they also ranks better. And what company would not like to be in the first pages of the Google research, right? Even if they're not paying more for that. If you're actually not convinced, there is a regulation factor. Yeah, the law is involved. A number of industries and agencies are regulated by law for being accessible. Even more for companies agencies for the government. Other industries can be also demanded to be accessible, like some companies who work with job markets. I don't want to mention too much of them. And yeah, if they're not accessible enough, you can have some problems. There are a couple of a couple of laws in US between Europe Union, and since we are in Spain, there is also a law in Spain from 2003. And all those laws, they have something in common. They are really talking about providing equality of opportunities and no discrimination, and making sure every single individual can actively participate in the digital economy. And maybe you are wondering, okay, how you know you are going the right path, right? How do you know you are? I mean, you are building things in the right way, because in the end, you don't want to invest money, effort, resources, people, I mean everything, and you're still receiving a demand letter, right? So that's why the W3C, World Wide Web Consortium, they issued this guideline called Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and these guidelines provides some standards and patterns for web accessibility, also some best practice. And this guideline provided enacted some countries around the globe to enact their own laws and standards based on this guideline. So every country, maybe not every country for sure, but yeah, most of countries already have some accessibility guidelines, and you just need to look for that. Okay, but let's move for something more practical right now. So yeah, my company doesn't have an accessibility guideline, right? We don't know how to start. We never did it. We never touched this area. How can we start on the accessibility topic? First, that's what I recommend right now. It is defining a champion or a guild. A guild is a group of champions. The champion is gonna be someone who is responsible for embedding accessibility across the team company. They are going to spread the word of accessibility. In our company, we have a guild there. I think there are kind of 10 people. I'm not quite sure right now. And those champions, they are responsible for a lot of things. And those things are like create awareness, like they are talking about the topic in an open way, right? And turning accessibility in something more included in our day-to-day. I mean, it's something that be really included in your conversations inside the team, inside the company. They are challenging how you define accessibility because, oops, sorry, my bad. Because when you talk about accessibility, you are immediately thinking about blind people or deaf people or people who has like any motor disability. But those are not only the groups who needs to be considered, right? There's a lot of people who has different disabilities, reading disabilities, cognitive, I don't know, even people who sometimes broken arm could be someone who has a disability. I mean, temporary disability, but it has it, right? So those people who need to be considered. Educate, because educate is key for improving accessibility or improving everything actually. I mean, if we're not receiving the right insights, the right education, I mean, you don't know how to do it, right? You are going to be guessing things there. Applying the lenses of accessibility, they are responsible for creating more champions. They are to stimulate the empathy, the introspection on people, to improving the guild. And they are also responsible for promote and celebrate, because in the end, it should be a funny process, right? It should be, you need to enjoy this process, and promoting and celebrating this is gonna send a strong message to for the whole company. Okay, and I think you need to add accessibility as a part of the development process, because if you don't do it, if you start to push things, I mean, for later, I mean, oh, let's develop those features and let's talk about accessibility. Let's think about accessibility later. We are not going to do it, right? Or it's gonna cost more. So if you don't put it in your whole process, things are gonna be hard. So in the requirement levels, add accessibility as a high level requirement. I mean, the POs should be considering this just for the beginning. They need to understand who's your public. In the design level, in the design time, use the appropriate colors with the high contrast, create different designs for different devices, for different screens, use appropriate text, have alternative text for images. No one wants to use a screen reader and listen something that doesn't make sense for an image, for example. In the development and testing phase, accessibility as a definition of done and acceptance criteria. Test it manual because automation is not enough. Test it with automation because manual is not enough. They need to be combined. If they are not being done together, things are not gonna be that good as a result. And the maintenance level, collect feedback from users, collect and work on that, review the feedback, and also look for those improvements and work on them. Okay, so now I'm gonna start with the accessibility testing because probably it's the part of the presentation you are more interested into, right? So I'm gonna present some tools and some best practice that I would like, and I invite you to think a little bit about it. So I'm gonna start with the accessibility scanner or accessibility audit. That's how you prefer. And those are really good tools to start. Those scanners are going to scan the screens. You can add this to an automation and test every screen like automatically. But yeah, they are going to look for opportunities to improve your accessibility of an app or a website. As you can see, every screen receives a score. It's gonna show you a lot of improvements you can do. You can even have a full report there, and you're also going to receive feedback about navigation, names and labels, contrast, area attributes, audio and video, page title, everything. And those are some that I really recommend. For web, you have the Lighthouse on Chrome. This one you can access directly from the developer tools. This one is the one I was showing here in this image. So it's really easy to manage. You have a lot of settings to play there. You can check it like this screen as a desktop screen, as a mobile screen. You can check it as using a page load or a static screen. It's up to you. For mobile, you have the accessibility scanner that you can find on Play Store. It's an app that are going to check your app right in the device. So there you are going to have the same report, the same checks. You have not the same ones actually, because the checks you have in web are different. You are going to receive an Android right in native. There are different platforms that they should have different aspects from the checked. So yeah, this is really good. You can use it directly on your device. And during the development period, you also have some tools embedded on the development tools. You have the accessibility test framework that's gonna do the same checks you have there. This is for Android, and you also have the accessibility inspector for Xcode for checking your iOS apps. And also, you have for automation, you can also add those checks in your CI. You have the Lighthouse. They also a framework to put it there in your Jenkins. And for Cypress, you also have the Cypress X that uses the Xcore. There is an engine built by the Q. That is a company that I mentioned before, and you can also add there. And yeah, unintentionally, I forgot to put some things here for mobile. I just checked it. But for Android, you have also those same checks for espresso, so you can also add there in your pipeline. And then for iOS, I'm quite not sure. I don't really like iOS. It's not that I don't care, I just don't like it. And for manual testing, yeah, manual testing should includes some of those scenarios, not limited to, because there is a lot to explore actually. And but make sure you are going to testing by yourself, because automation is not never enough. Manual is not never enough. So they should be combined, right? So there's a lot of scenarios to play with. Testing the navigation through keyboard, because some people doesn't have the full coordination to use a mouse sometimes, right? But also some people doesn't have the coordination for using keyboard, but that's another scenario. Testing user application using one single hand. I mean, as I said, maybe some people doesn't have two hands. You broke an arm. You never know, right? Testing performing Zoom in our application. Some people maybe they need to have a bigger content or bigger components. That's really important. Also, check if the platform audios and videos contain subtitles. Not everyone can are able to follow an audio, right? An audio video, and check if the content is clear and understandable. There are some people with reading disabilities. Not everyone can understand the same words you do, right? So think also about that. And there's a lot of more to explore. Just try and have fun. I would like to talk about a little bit about screen readers, because they are probably the most known people. No tool when you talk about accessibility tools, right? Those are really important tools for blind and visually impaired users. My bad. Sorry. And you can check, like, you need to check if all the relevant components are reachable, in their audio description makes sense. If you are not listening, I don't know, button, action, send message. I mean, the audio should the description should make sense for everyone, not for a developer. And you can start covering the main screens and the flows in your web or mobile application. Don't think that you are going to cover everything. I mean, at this first time, you need to check the most critical flows. If you have like a purchase one, register one, just focus on that first, and just play a little bit about that. And I heard a nice curiosity about the new iOS. The new iOS version has compatibility to Valenciano. I heard this from a colleague. We checked this on Monday actually, and this is a really cool thing. And thank you, Javi, for the info. And moving forward here, I would like to also to say that that is something that I really think QA should be more involved with. That is getting feedback. I mean, even more from the right public, right? Because in the end, we are building for them. Not saying that the QA should be actively looking all the emails, the support receivers, or I mean, but you need to review some feedback that you receive, because in the end, it's the most valuable feedback we have, right? And people will always provide feedback at some and any levels, like review on an app store, email, social media, request for support, test sessions. I love test sessions. Unfortunately, we are not doing that much here in our team, but yeah, this is really cool because you can get the real feedback from people who are using it, and collect the feedback and work on them, because in the end we are building for them, right? We are building for people. And I would like to give some quick wins that I think that are things you can work in, small changes that are going to bring a lot of value to your product. would like to bring the first one. It is dark mode. Dark mode, it is not an issue. It is not an extra. Dark mode should be something that every application should bring it, because it is really easy to work on. It's gonna help a lot of people, like people with visual impairment, people with dyslexia. I have photophobia. This helps me a lot, actually. Um, and you are allowing the user to use the tool in the way that's more comfortable for them, not for the company, not for the product. Um, and also, by the way, black and white are not the most comfortable, colors to use it. Some scales of gray could be more way comfortable for a user to read it. Landscape. Yeah, landscape is not only for watching YouTube or watching Netflix. Actually, landscape should be considered accessibility too, because there is a lot of people who could receive a lot of value with that, like people who has like a device mounted in a wheelchair, by example. They could prefer to use it in a landscape orientation. People who has low visibility that want to have more a bigger content, a bigger text, bigger components, that can work. Also, people with big hands, right? I mean, come on, they have big fingers, and maybe it's really hard to touch on some components. So landscape should not be considered also an extra. It should be something that your product should provide. And that's really sad, because this is for many times a feature that is blocked by development. I'm not saying the developers are doing that because they want to. Maybe sometimes the product, they decide to do that. But it came by default enabled, and people decides to disable. Oh, because we are going to need to create more designs. We need to create, I don't know. It's a source of bugs. It is a source of, it is hard to maintain. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for disable this feature, but there is even more to make it, to keep it enabled. And also high contrast. People with blurred and obscured vision or color blindness, uh, some type of color blindness, they may not distinguish some colors. The text and background can be mixed and become impossible to read. And there is a lot of tools that can check if we are using the right combinations of colors, if we are having contrast enough. It's not that hard. Usually, you have one palette of colors in your application, and these resources are being shared in the whole website, the whole, I don't know, app. So it's really hard it's really easy to have this done. Yeah, and for concluding, I would like to do a quick resume here. In a nutshell, there are many reasons for caring about accessibility. You have the human factor, you have the business factor, you have the law factor. I mean, if I'm still not convinced, I don't know what to say to you to convince you. But if you are, and you want to start to do it, define a champion, define your guild. Those people who are really engaged on that, who cares about it, who has the empathy for that. Integrate accessibility in your company process. I mean, because if you don't do that, things are not going to happen. Use the available tools. There is a lot of tools there from bigger players. For the big players, I mean, Google has a lot of tools there that I like to use it. Test it manual because automation is not enough. Test it with automation because manual is not enough. Collect feedback from the right public because it's about
Sorry,
them.
Thiago, 5 minutes.
Thank you. And work on some quick wins. Things are going to bring huge value with small fixes. And try, make mistakes, learn and try again, because about that, we are going to you are going to do some things wrong sometimes, but it is about trying, it's about learning, and yeah, and having fun. And those are some recommended books. You have this, the first one is developing inclusive mobile apps, focused on iOS and Android. It is really cool. And the second one is building for everyone. It was a recommendation for a colleague and friend, a close friend from the company, Danilo. Thank you about that. And talks about inclusion inside Google, how they expand their market. And it talks about inclusion not only for people with disabilities, but also gender, race, I don't know, religion, everything. It's really nice and worth the read. And I would like to finish with this sentence here for this guy just understand it, because there is a real active champion in many initiatives around the globe, and he said that if you do not intentionally, deliberately, or proactively include, you will unintentionally exclude. By doing nothing, you are not helping to solve the issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thiago. That was an interesting presentation. So we hope our audience has enjoyed a lot. We are about to tell you a few questions. We are getting back for our audience auditorium. So there's the first one. They're asking if always her working in accessibility, is it expensive? And what's your opinion about that?
Not always expensive. It's being expensive if you don't do it from the beginning. And you can always give priorities for things, right? You can, as I said, working on quick wins. You can prioritize the more critical flows and the flows that are, more important for your product or for your service. And yeah, and you also, if you don't have the right education, right? If you don't have the right guidance, yeah, it's gonna become expensive because we're going to do things and we're going to need to rebuild it and maybe looking for the patterns, looking for the best practices, it is good. But I'm not sure if I'll also say that it is expensive, but it can cost money. But staying out of this market share, it is more expensive, right? Because as I showed, there is 7 billion gain right here right now. And I don't know, I think 7 billion, at least having a share of that's gonna be a nice thing.
Thank you so much, Thiago. We have another question or online audience also. So what are the biggest challenges when working with accessibility?
The biggest challenges. Okay. I think one of them is creating the awareness of the issue of the topic for the whole company. Even inside the same company, not everyone has the same understanding about the topic. I can bring as a personal experience. I was working with a team that I brought this topic, and immediately they bought this fight with me. They were really motivated to work on that and everything. And I moved it to another team, and I brought that, and they said, yeah, thanks for bringing that. Yeah, but let's focus on that feature we are working on, right? So maybe convincing the right people and creating this, making them understand the importance of that, maybe it could be a big challenge, I would say.
Thank you so much, Thiago. We have another question. They're answering, they're questioning if there is a different legal regulation in accessibility aspects in the different countries you have worked, as Spain, Brazil, or Portugal. Is there any differences?
Yeah, there are a few differences, but most of those regulations are based on the same standards. So it's not that hard to catch up. I mean, usually they are talking about the same things. And as a personal experience, I never I never had to. I mean, actually, once I had because I was working in a big bank in Brazil, so we had to be accessible. But in other countries, I never passed it to the situation where we were really regulated by a government agency.
Okay, thank you so much, Thiago. There are no more questions, so we'd like to thank you for being here with us today. It has been a pleasure, and we hope you enjoy the rest of editions of VLC testing in the future. So thank you so much, and congratulations for your presentations.
Thank
you y gracias también a nuestra audiencia por estar aquí. Espero que hayáis disfrutado mucho de la ponencia y nos vemos en la siguiente. Hasta ahora.
Hasta ahora, muchas gracias a todos.
Gracias, Thiago.
Bye bye.